Officer disrespects man outside station. Didn't know he was the new police chief. A worn-down police officer storms out of a precinct, spits near a man standing quietly by the door, and snarls, "People like you don't belong here." The man, dressed in simple clothes and holding a notebook, simply looks up and says, "Duly noted." The officer smirks and walks off, proud of his dominance. What he doesn't know is that the man he just disrespected is Marcus Ellison, a former FBI strategist, respected across the country for turning around broken police departments. And in less than 24 hours, Marcus will walk through those same doors not as a civilian, but as the newly appointed police chief of the very precinct that just humiliated him. What happens next is not just about one officer's about accountability, transformation, and the powerful reminder that true leadership never needs to raise its voice, just its standards. Before we dive in, please support us by subscribe, like and share for more with activating the notification bell. Thank you. It was a blistering August morning in Jackson Heights, and the city was already sweating beneath the weight of rising heat and rising tension. For Officer Craig Donovan, that tension had started with a parking dispute that escalated into a shouting match, a complaint from a vendor accusing him of excessive force, and a disciplinary warning left unsigned on his desk. He was irritated, bitter, and in no mood to deal with what he perceived as idle street activity. As he stepped outside for a smoke, he saw a black man standing a few feet from the station's entrance. The man, middle-aged, well-groomed but dressed in plain jeans and a polo shirt, was writing in a small leather notebook. His presence seemed unusual, especially since he wasn't panhandling, protesting, or seemingly doing anything unlawful. Approached him with a raised voice. "You lost or just killing time?" he asked, gesturing dismissively toward the man's notebook. "No, sir," the man replied politely. "I'm just observing." That made Donovan scoff. "Observing, huh? This isn't a library, friend. Move along." When the man didn't react or move, Donovan's ego took over. He stepped closer and spit on the ground near the man's shoes, his face contorted with disdain. "You people always watching, never helping. You've got something better to do, go do it somewhere else." The man didn't flinch. He simply raised his eyes calm and unbothered, and said quietly, "Duly noted." Donovan turned on his heel, muttering something under his breath, and walked back inside. He felt triumphant in that moment, as if he'd defended his territory. But he hadn't just insulted a stranger, he had just disrespected Chief Marcus Ellison, the man the mayor secretly appointed to lead the most corrupt, racially tense precinct in the city. A man tasked with evaluating his future team without revealing who he was. An officer, Craig Donovan, had just failed the test. Marcus Ellison had faced worse. A seasoned lawman and former FBI Special Unit leader, he'd been brought into Jackson Heights under the radar. The mayor, weary of internal misconduct and a rising number of civilian complaints, needed someone bold but strategic, someone who wouldn't just change policies, but culture. Marcus had spent his career blending intellect with humility. He knew the best way to understand a system was not from inside the boardroom but from the sidewalk. That's why he arrived, in street clothes, carrying nothing but a notebook and a burner phone, so even the front desk officer wouldn't guess who he was. The day before his official appointment, Marcus decided to stand outside the precinct, not hidden, but not obvious. He wanted to see how his new team treated the public, especially those who seemed insignificant. What better way to observe than becoming one of them? He saw more than enough in one day. Disrespectful banter between officers, citizens turned away from help, one officer laughing about intimidating a teenager for asking for directions, and of course, the climax being verbally abused and spit on by Officer Donovan. Back at his motel, Marcus typed a full page of notes on his laptop under the file name Precinct 12 Culture Audit. But this wasn't about humiliation. This was data. Proof. Marcus wasn't out for revenge. He'd been disrespected before, even in leadership roles. But every time, he responded with action, not anger. His mission was bigger than anyone insulted, was to hold an entire department to a higher standard, and remind them that authority doesn't excuse arrogance. Tomorrow, he would walk into the precinct, not as a stranger but as their new boss, and he would remember every face, every action, and every silence. The next morning, the mood at Precinct 12 was one of gossip and uncertainty. Word had gotten out that Chief Hammond had officially stepped down, citing health reasons, though everyone knew it had more to do with the lawsuits piling up against the department. Inside the main briefing room, officers filled chairs, while murmuring names of rumored replacements. Some hoped for an easygoing veteran who wouldn't change anything. Others feared a reformer from City Hall, Donovan leaned back in his chair, sipping burnt coffee. Bet it's some pencil pusher who's never done a street shift in his life. He chuckled. Won't last 2 weeks. Just then, Captain Lopez walked in with a clipboard, but behind him followed a man in a tailored black suit, clean-shaven, upright, and confident. A silence swept the room. Donovan blinked. His cup froze halfway to his lips. It was him, the civilian from yesterday. The man he insulted and spit near. Lopez cleared his throat. Everyone, this is your new chief of police, Chief Marcus Ellison. Shock rippled through the room. Whispers turned into gasps. Donovan shrank in his chair, his arrogance melting instantly into visible panic. Chief Ellison stepped forward. I spent the past 24 hours observing this department anonymously. What I witnessed confirmed the concerns I've heard from City Hall and the community, but I believe in reform, not retaliation. He paused, scanning the room until his gaze landed firmly on Donovan. Respect is not an optional policy. It is the foundation of law enforcement. Starting today, that foundation will be reinforced. No yelling, no chest pounding, just calm dominance. Donovan's hands were trembling slightly, and everyone else. They suddenly realized the game had changed. Chief Ellison believed in accountability, not revenge. Rather than quietly punishing Donovan, he turned the incident into a department-wide lesson. The following week, a mandatory ethics seminar was organized. All active duty officers were required to attend. It began with a series of national case studies: officers misusing authority, citizens losing trust, communities breaking down. Then unexpectedly, Ellison introduced a local clip. The room darkened. A black and white grainy video from the precinct's outdoor camera appeared on the projector screen. There it was. Donovan approaching a calm man, harassing him, spitting near his shoes. Some officers gasped. A few shifted uncomfortably. Donovan's face turned beet red. Ellison let the video play in silence. Then he stepped forward. This isn't about shaming, he began. This is about acknowledging where we aren't, choosing where we want to be. He didn't even name Donovan directly, but the message was loud and clear. Afterward, Donovan stood up. Chief, he said, barely above a whisper, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I disrespected you and I dishonored the badge. Ellison nodded. Accountability begins with honesty. Donovan was suspended for a week, stripped of his field leadership role, and ordered to complete sensitivity training and lead 3 community outreach events with at-risk youth. Some expected him to quit, but he didn't, and that was the beginning of something new. Weeks later, something noticeable began happening at Precinct 12. The tone changed. Officers started pausing before reacting. Some began greeting people outside the building. Small shifts, but powerful ones. Citizens began to report more positive interactions. Local barbershops and stores noticed officers coming in not to intimidate, to listen. And Donovan, he changed the most at first. He did the outreach events just to complete his obligations. But somewhere along the line, after mentoring a young boy who lost his father to police violence, something in him cracked open. Donovan started coming in early. He asked questions during briefings. He apologized to a mother whose complaint he had previously dismissed. He became human. One afternoon, as Chief Ellison stepped out of his office, he found Donovan waiting by the door. Sir, Donovan said awkwardly, I just wanted to say, thank you, for not firing me, for giving me the chance to change. Ellison looked at him and replied, real change doesn't come from punishment, it comes from reflection. You showed that. You earned your respect. Donovan nodded and offered his hand. This time, Ellison shook it. And unlike the first encounter, they were both smiling.